Hello there, you good people.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, friends, lovers, and anybody who doesn't fit either of those two categories. We are glad you are here. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir.
And all the bunnies who are listening tonight.
And all the bunnies who are listening tonight. I am watching YouTube. YouTube says we're not streaming. Let's see here. Am I doing something wrong? It says waiting.
Oh, no. It says that we are streaming on my end.
It just came to life on my machine here. It's my Windows 11 machine. You know, they're still working the bugs out in that. It's only been out for, 4 years? 5 years? How many of us have still got machines running Windows 10? How many of you have machines running Windows 7? Folks, thank you for joining us. 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir. And the word is yes. Just say yes, baby. Just say yes. My God, what a week it has been. No, we're not going to do the slide presentations like your parents. You'd get back from a vacation. Or worse, they'd get back from a vacation. They didn't even take you in, and they'd put the slide projector out. And the big white screen on the tripod that always was in danger of falling over and click. Yeah.
And you can also say, yes, I'll get back to you next week. So you can also say that.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
That's what I've had to do. And yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely.
I'll get back to you later. Yes, I'll check my calendar. Yes.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, the crazy week I've had, I've dropped the ball on a couple of things. If there's anybody out there who's waiting for an answer from me on something, just keep tapping that shoulder. It will happen eventually, because this has been the week that was. Today is August 11th, 2024, the 224th day of this, your best year yet. Everything just keeps getting better by the stats, by the statistics. I was listening to one of the, I was about to say Peter Singer. Why do I think of Peter Singer when I should be thinking of Steven Pinker? And talking again about how everything is getting better all the time. There's always those exceptions. You could list the 19 most important measures of well-being, and you'll find one or two in which things have taken a slide, because that's how stats and life work. But by and large, everything is getting better all the time. 2024, your best year yet. You've only got 142 shopping days until Christmas. I'm already looking forward to it, because I'm just not the Halloween guy around here, but somebody is. So somebody will want to know, yes, Amy, that Halloween is just 81 days away. That doesn't even sound like a month. 81.
81.
That's a small number.
It's basically not that far away.
It's 9 times 9. It's 81. So, real quick, not a lot of on this date. Not a lot of anything this time. I got a lot I want to talk about, and I'm going to keep everything really, really brief. And I do need to keep an eye on the chat here, too. But first, on this date, this was the date on August 11th, 1984, that Ronald Reagan, in a press conference, said, "My fellow Americans, I am pleased to tell you today that I have signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes."
Yes.
Man. I wish that had not just been a mic check at a press conference, but that he really meant it. But it's great that it was captured on audio, on video. It reminds me, too, of his missed me remark. He was at one of the speeches he was given in 1987, so later in his second term, and he's giving a speech where there are decorations and there's balloons, and a balloon pops, and it's pretty loud, at least on the microphones. And he stops what he's saying and says, "Missed me." That's the kind of president we need. Somebody who, when a balloon pops, a guy who's already been shot at, attempted assassination, can...
Did he actually say that?
He did. He smiled and said, "Missed me."
Oh, boy.
He didn't say, "Fight, fight, fight." No, unlike somebody else who was recently shot at. But Reagan, man, for all of his problems, including a lot of the problems we have today that his support of the moral majority left us with still, compared to what we've got now, a great guy. Man, but this was the date. August 11th, 1984 was the Russia remark. Yeah, 87 was the missed me one. And 2 happy birthdays today. So again, we're going to go real quick with this. Happy birthday to Robert George Ingersoll. The great speaker, late 1800s. Robert Ingersoll was, And he kind of did what Mark Twain did without quite as much writing. Not fiction writing, but he was a speaker. He would travel around the country and give lectures. And he would give lectures in favor of reason. Now, he was a bit of an emotionalist himself, kind of like Twain. He lived large, but his big thing, he could have been one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. No, I don't mean from the Bible. I mean the atheists, today's modern atheists. He was one of the guys who started all of that. There are so many great Robert Ingersoll quotes out there. Here, let me go to Ingersoll quotes page. I'll just pull a couple real quick there. Happiness is the only good. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. Man, imagine saying that in the late 1800s at a time when, of course, people eschew happiness in the name of religion. Unfortunately, he ended that with, the way to be happy is to make others so. But in the late 1800s...
That's a tall order.
Well, you don't have to take that as altruism, though.
No, I know.
There are advocates of capitalism who understand that if you want to trade with people, you need to produce something that is of greater value to them than what it cost you to make it. And I take it in that sense. Because Ingersoll was generally very good when it came to being first-handed. In fact, is there a quote on this page or not? To be like other people is to be unlike ourselves. He had some great quotes about integrity. And so he was not an altruist, certainly not in the philosophical sense. He said, what has religion to do with facts? Nothing. And one of my favorites here, where is it? I should have just printed out the ones that I wanted. This reminds me of something Robert Heinlein would have said, 60 years later. As long as woman regards the Bible as the charter of her rights, she will be the slave of man. The Bible was not written by a woman. Within its leaves, there is nothing but humiliation and shame for her. If that sounds like an exaggeration, just, reread your Bible with an eye to the place of women in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people, including people in my own circle of friends and family, the Christians within my circle of friends and family, more family than friends, who think that Christianity elevates women, that women are holy, that women are sacrosanct. The marriage is a sacred tradition.
No, that's called purity culture, and it is a nightmare, and it's abusive, and if you really want to drive people crazy and drive them to suicide, then you have that in your culture. So, anyway, that's what you do.
Tell me how you really feel. I'm just bringing the Facebook event up in here because one of my chat windows is missing. And I really like the writings of Robert Ingersoll.
Yeah, I need to look
the
into
late
him.
Bill Bucko wrote a very good article in my newsletter, The Reality Check,
Back
about
in the 90s.
Ingersoll.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s. And so that's when I first learned about Robert Ingersoll. But yeah, he was like the Sam Harris of the 1890s, 1800s. Imagine Sam Harris, a bit of a gadfly, somebody to poke people, make them think twice about their traditions and their beliefs. And also, Sam Harris, of course, one of the four modern atheists of the apocalypse. And Ingersoll fit that bill. So happy birthday to the late, great Robert Ingersoll. It's also Chris Hemsworth's birthday. So all of you gals out there should be celebrating. Come on, he is too cool and ridiculously good looking.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about Chris Hemsworth.
And
Is it Hemsworth or Hemsworth?
Hemsworth.
Okay.
And I'm not a big Marvel. I like Marvel movies, but I'm not a big fan. I've missed a few of them. That tells you something. If I was a true Marvel movies fan, I wouldn't have missed any of them. But to me, the ones that were the most fun of the classic Marvel films era were the Thor films. So Hemsworth for the win. Happy birthday to you. Dude's only in his 40s. How is it that he can be so young? I know. The kids out there are saying 40s. That's kind of old. Wonder if he's going to keep doing those films. But how old is Robert Downey Jr.? And now he's coming back to the Marvel films in a whole separate role because, of course, Iron Man. Well, I won't give any spoilers. But yes, happy birthday to Chris Hemsworth. One more on this date. Because it is the birth date, well, not the birth date, it is the founding date. It is international because we now have a day named after this day when it all started. Happy Hip Hop Day.
All right. You know, that also reminds me of the fact that breakdancing is now part of the Olympic Games.
Breakdancing is now part of the Olympics.
Yeah.
Hip hop actually officially started in the 1970s, 1974. Mm-hmm. And an article on that is in the show notes. I'm not going to go into the whole... Oh, wait, the article isn't in the show notes because I accidentally replaced that article and why it's Hip Hop Day with an article about Licensed to Ill by the Beastie Boys. See, I don't really do hip hop. I'm not big on rap. I'm not even that big on...
I mean, I like the old school stuff.
But,
yeah.
Well, between old school and, there's just a few epic early rap albums that had a sense of life that was, well, kind of reminds me of punk rock. There's a real anger and there's a real joy. There's a real joie de vivre. There's an energy that you just don't get any other way. So, although I'm not a big hip-hop fan, I will say listen to the Beastie Boys, especially the early stuff. Listen to MC Front a lot. You can find some real quirky hip-hop out there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's
if you like it, though, enjoy it. This is the day.
Yeah, some people in the chat here on YouTube are celebrating Potato Day. I'll say next week, according to my calendar, Monday, August 19th is National Potato Day. International Day of Potato.
Yeah,
is
apparently
May
there's
30th.
A few different ones. I didn't know there was one today.
It doesn't look like it.
At least the encyclopedias I count on.
Let me know, please, in the chat. Go ahead and put your source, and we'll take a look. But yeah, I'm not seeing a August 11th as a Potato Day.
Now we are in the States, in the colonies.
So maybe it's British.
Back in the islands or in the continent, in Europe. Maybe it's different. Maybe they are celebrating. Potatoes are good for everything. Oh, yeah, Jennifer says potatoes are very good for you. Potatoes are, imagine life without French fries. Well, that would hardly be worth living. So, add to that potato chips, add to that mashed potatoes, add to that 1,000 ways in which potatoes are, they might well be the best vegetable out there. I'm guessing we go through more corn and wheat than we do potatoes, but maybe we shouldn't. Maybe potatoes should be the number one crop. Maybe they are. I didn't know it was Potato Day, so I'm totally unprepared and just going off the cuff. I'm looking at a comment from Jim Ashley, the writer on Facebook, Jim Ashley, who says, I remember Bill Bucko. It came as a shock when I heard that he passed away, but I've got the edition of The Mysterious Valley that he translated. That's true, The Mysterious Valley, a book that inspired the young Ayn Rand. Well before she was an author, but Cyrus Paulton's, the main character of that book, was one of her first heroes. Yes. And we're going to talk about heroes today, so I'm glad you mentioned that, Jim Ashley. I appreciate it, and I actually published the first few chapters of Bill's translation in my newsletter, The Reality Check. So that is a cool reminder there. Thank you for that. And that's all the on this dates I've got, because I got to jump right into, well, what are we listening to? More, what are we doing? What the heck have we been doing?
We've been saying yes.
Well, we've been saying yes to everything.
We've been saying do what you wanna.
Well,
we've been saying lanyap. We've been saying...
What is lanyap?
Lanyap is a...
it's like gratuities?
Kind of, yeah. It's like a little extra. It means,
little extra.
So if you're in the service industry in New Orleans and they have a little extra, hurricane cocktail in the shaker,
Gotcha.
And they're going to pour that into a little glass for you along with your cocktail glass.
The extra mile. That 13th donut in that baker's dozen.
Yes. It's a lanyap.
Very cool. And yeah, man, did we get a lot of yes. So the reason we did not do an episode last week, was we were on the road. And by on the road, I mean we were in New Orleans, Louisiana. In fact, on that day, we may have been on a boat holding an alligator. Well, it was a baby alligator, but it would have looked ferocious if it was any bigger. Yes. Oh, man, what a trip. I'm not going to give you the whole trip. The slideshow, the parent slideshow.
It was so good. I mean, talk about spiritual fuel. Talk about rewarding yourself for all of your virtues, all of your good deeds, all of your extremely hard work, all of my extremely hard work and virtues. Mm-hmm. That's what it was about, and yes. it was fulfilled. It was so good.
And the common denominator between the alligators, which was actually an airboat adventure out on the swamps and marshes of Louisiana and the lakes and almost into the Gulf, and the incredible dining at Commander's Palace and the Court of Two Sisters, and food that even Yaron Brook, the foodie in Objectivism, would have appreciated. Damn good food. And the incredible music of New Orleans, the jazz, the recitals, going to Toulouse Theater for Preservation Hall. The hall is actually under reconstruction, seeing outstanding jazz music, and Café du Monde and beignets and coffee.
Commander's Palace.
And riding on a steamship up and down the Mississippi.
And the great people of the Historic New Orleans Collection Museum.
And on and on and on.
And Gottschalk. Louis
tracking
Moreau
down
Gottschalk.
And the ways in which we tracked down Gottschalk were outstanding because, well, I'd have to tell you the whole story about the organ, which was actually not just an organ, an original organ from early in the century, but had been updated to be a player organ. It could play organ from sheets, from paper. And then, 60 years later, it was updated again to be able to play MIDI files using the player organ mechanics, but from files on a thumb drive. Amazing, and we got to hear all of that. Oh, yeah, we weren't going to do the whole slideshow, but the common denominator of this 6 days, 5 nights trip, or was it 6 days, 5 nights, so almost a week. The common denominator was we did everything that was planned, and then every other thing that came along that was worth doing, we said,
yes.
Yes.
Well, not everything. I mean, we could have stayed up all night on Frenchman Street, but we didn't because we needed sleep.
And we would have missed things the next morning, so we would have had to say no. I would say we did about as much yes as we were physically capable of doing. I would say financially, but actually we blew our budget, which we always do when we vacate. I strongly recommend blow your budget every time you go vacation. What did Robert Heinlein said? Another secret for a successful marriage. This is his, not mine. Although I've given a similar secret for a successful marriage before. Robert Heinlein said, budget the luxuries first. Necessities will take care of themselves. And even if they don't, it's better to miss out on a few and have a little extra struggle with the boring parts of life and have more of the exciting ones. That relates to a conversation that happened online. Get into that in a bit. But New Orleans, yes, was 5 days, 5.5 days of just saying yes to every idea. And I've got to admit, I was a little worn out by the end of it.
Yes.
For multiple reasons that I won't get into. Some of them, physical challenges that I'm having looked at in an MRI machine last week, and
it's just his knee.
It's just things falling apart. And yet, I did my very best to follow my own secret of a successful marriage, which is the answer is always yes. The answer is always yes.
And it was,
if you can. I mean, there's sometimes you've got to say no, but if it's at all possible, just do the thing. If your partner says, can we go to this place to eat tonight? Well, I don't really feel like it. If it's just a matter of, well, I don't really feel like it. I'm not really up to it. I don't really have the energy. Do the thing. Just change your state. We've talked about you can change your physical, psychological state in any given moment. and then do the thing. I know it's hard, and I can't say I always succeed at it. But last week, we did all the things.
Well, let me just relay two things. First of all, it's one that you did. We went to Frenchman Street. We saw some bands there on Frenchman Street. There's all sorts of clubs that are playing New Orleans style jazz and things like, just along those lines. It's so good.
Yeah,
by the way, don't go to Bourbon Street. It just smells terrible.
Yeah, if you don't know much about New Orleans, you've heard of Bourbon Street, where everybody parties from 6 p.m. until all hours, and the streets, they close them off. They normally are open to traffic, but they close them off every night, 7 nights a week. It's a party. Streets are full, lots of noise, lots of music, but a lot of it's rock music or country rock music or hip hop. Happy Hip Hop Day. There's still a couple good jazz clubs there. La Maison is a great jazz club. Fritzel's is still on Bourbon Street, and they're still pure jazz.
Yeah, that's on Bourbon Street. The Maison is Frenchman.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I must be thinking of a different one then.
Yeah.
There is another pure jazz club on Bourbon Street.
Right.
But it's a real mix and mishmash, and it's all about partying and getting as drunk as you can. And if that's your thing, more power to you. But Frenchman Street, if you go to Frenchman Street on the, I guess that's north there, that's where you're going to find the artists. That's where you're going to find the music.
You're going to find the better people. You're going to find the better people. You're not going to just find the tourists who want to get poop-faced. You're going to find people who are actually interested in music and culture, and they have that real joie de vivre. And so we went into this artist market on Frenchman Street. Of course, so as some of you know, Robert is a chalk artist, and he doesn't like draw characters and anything, but it's mainly calligraphy and things like that. He does it really, really well. So unbeknownst to me, while I was talking with an artist, and I was just talking with the artists, and it was just great. I didn't have to buy anything from them. They were just happy to talk to me, and I was happy to talk to them, and it was such a great, oh my God, it was so good. And lo and behold, Robert comes back up to me, and he shows me this couple who are kissing, and he's taking a picture of them. And I'm like, what's going on? And, and then I look down below. Underneath where they're standing is chalk art that says, "Live, love, buy art, and kiss girls named Amy."
Well, it was an art festival. And it was the kind of art it was fun. It was a sidewalk art festival. They have this kind of side street full of art vendors and booths. And they put out some activities for people to do stuff in the art area. They had, like a skee ball box and things like that. And they put out a big bowl of chalk.
Yep.
Now, you can't put out a big bowl of chalk, and if there's any unchalked pavement nearby, and it was relatively unchalked out there, and not expect me to go out and do something with the chalk.
Mm-hmm.
I heartily encourage you, if you're ever offered the opportunity to do something with chalk, say yes and do something with the chalk. That was fun. The funny thing was, I wrote something with a bit of charm to it about Amy, and this gal comes up to me as I'm still chalking and writing and says, I'm Amy. I didn't know if she wanted me to kiss her, but it turns out she was with her boyfriend, her husband, somebody named Brian, and Brian was really impressed. And yeah, this is Amy. And they actually asked me, can you take a picture of us in front of what you just wrote? And they kissed while I took a picture of them.
It was sweet. It was sweet. I later met and shook the hands with this Amy character, this other Amy.
Yeah,
and
there are other Amy's.
This other Amy, as it should be. There should be more Amy's.
It is. My first girlfriend was named Amy.
I'm named Amy.
You're named Amy.
My
high school girlfriend into college was named Amy. So there have been 3 Amy's.
Yeah.
Until I found the right Amy.
4, really. I mean, there's I have a good friend named Amy from my teenage years.
No, I never kissed her. Really, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Okay, good.
No, I don't think she would.
That's well established. Good.
So here I am. I'm looking down at this chalk art. I'm like, oh my God, Robert, you're so funny. And mind you, it's like 100 degrees outside. The sun has already set, but it's so hot. It was so hot. How hot was it?
How hot was it?
It was so hot.
That's so hot right now.
It was hot at night when the sun was down. It was like an oven. It was like a dark oven. But it was wonderful. It was so good.
Yeah,
and I absolutely loved it. The other little anecdote that I've got for you all, when we went to the Historic New Orleans Collection Museum, I go in there, I meet some people, they're just lovely. I'm talking to them like I've known them for years. They're so interesting. They're so hospitable. They're so friendly. They're so welcoming. They've got style. The style of their soul is just wonderful. I mean, God. Anyway, that's what I would say that is my biggest love of New Orleans is the kind of sense of life, style of the soul that people have down there. And even if they're not even originally from there, they know it, and then they stay there. And someday maybe I'll stay there for a little longer than a week. So I run into this guy on our second time that we're in this museum because we love it so much. And we take a tour, this guy named Craig. So he shows us around and gives us a nice tour. We have a lot of fun. We talk history. We learned some new things. It's really amazing. And we find out he's actually from Michigan originally, even though he has a Texas accent.
Which is, by the way, where we're from. We are from Michigan.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
If anybody doesn't know that. So, and he explains that his wife is Texan. So I'm like, okay, you picked up her accent. He starts picking up the Michigan accent as we're talking with him. He kind of reverts back a little bit, which is really nice. And so after he's done giving us a tour, and I didn't want to interrupt him because I can be a real interrupter sometimes. I look at him and I say, you know what? We're from Michigan. And I work at the Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village. And his face just lights up with delight, looks straight at me, and he says, Greenfield Village is why I work in museums. And my heart just melts. I am just blown away. And I'm thinking to myself that Greenfield Village, for those who know, is a magical place. You walk in and all of your problems and all of your worries and everything just lifts off of your shoulders. And it's a magical place where you get a lot of spiritual fuel. So is New Orleans, if you look in the right place. And I just loved it. So he's been in New Orleans for a couple of years now. He works there as a tour guide. His name's Craig, if you go there. That's the Historic New Orleans Collection. Anyway, it was fantastic. What you got?
Sorry, there's so much going on in the chat. Chandler is in the house. So happy Hip Hop Day, Chandler. I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show, but it is actually Hip Hop Day. It was determined that it was on this date that hip hop was started in 1974. But he also says, Hansel.
Hansel's so hot right now.
So he must have heard us saying, New Orleans is so hot right now.
Thank you for the Zoolander
any
reference.
of you have never seen the film Zoolander, it's a must-see.
It's a must-see.
It is as much a must-see as Zoolander 2 is not a must-see. On our list of films that should never have had sequels. But Zoolander is a great film.
All right, well,
the reason I was laughing, though, you said something about the word code, or was that in the chat here? And I was reminded of an AP article that said, Donald Trump questioning Kamala Harris's race shows he doesn't understand code switching. Folks, tell me in the chat if you've ever heard of code switching.
No, I've never heard of that. I mean, is that like switching your personality depending on what audience you're speaking to?
Exactly. Now, this charming guide that we met in New Orleans, he wasn't doing this intentionally. I did this when I worked for this company called Taco Plaza. They were part of ConAgra. They were like a Taco Bell. And when they first came into town, I was 15 years old. They were opening a restaurant on the corner a mile up from my house. And I went over there to see about getting a job. And they let me help the construction guys. I wasn't old enough to actually put on the payroll. You had to be 16. And they hired me right away as soon as I turned 16. And they came up from Texas. ConAgra was out of Texas. They came to Michigan. So the guy who comes up to start this process and the other guys working with him all have strong Texas accents. And the weird thing was that just being around these guys, I caught myself having a drawl.
Yes, you picked that up.
That was, it was interesting too because you all know I am painfully shy, which means I speak very, very quietly. I'm prone to mumbling because very shy people, we kind of mumble and we don't really say. And what happened was when I was a teenager, things like working with cassette recorders. You record your voice, you hear your voice, you say, man, I hate the way my voice sounds on tape. And eventually you realize, if you have any sense at all, everybody else sounds like themselves on tape. You're the only one who sounds different on tape. Maybe the way you sound on tape, I'm sorry, but it's actually the way you sound. But also working with these guys with these strong accents and then catching myself with a drawl, I realized at some point, man, people need to take control of their voices, their enunciation. I need to do that. And it's an enormous self-confidence booster once you realize your voice isn't something you're saddled with, but something that you can make into whatever you want it to be. And adding a little bit of that kind of exaggeration, got me to where my voice was better. And it didn't stay exaggerated, just like it didn't stay with a Texas drawl. But being conscious of the way in which you use your mouth, the way in which you shape your tone, it gives you enormous power. If there's anybody who's never really thought about that, and you've thought, I don't know if I really like my voice when I hear myself on a recording or in a video, it's not exactly what I want. Do not underestimate your ability to work on that just for a few weeks, a little bit of heightened awareness and change it around and play with it to actually change things to make them a little more the way you would want them to be. So that's funny. But yeah, there was an AP article on code switching, and Donald Trump doesn't get code switching. And I had to read the whole article to find out, Amy, it's exactly what you're saying. Kamala Harris, well, when she is in an African-American community, she finds it very natural to talk black, which, of course, the Trumpster found suspicious. When she is in a community of South Asians, of Indians, her Indian heritage comes to the fore. Her Indian relatives, of course, spoke with a little more of that accent, and she does too. And, of course, this is nothing new. This is the same old stuff. We've joked about Hillary Clinton would go down south, and all of a sudden she'd have a drawl, and she would talk about recipes that Lord knows she never, living up in the Northeast, ever had any exposure to. And we used to call that two-faced. We used to make fun of that. And nowadays they have a term for it. It's called code switching. And I want to know, here's what I want to know, where are all the people shouting cultural appropriation now that this is happening to the nth degree? But I didn't mean to get into politics, just explaining why I thought that was amusing. We need to start a politics show. That's what we need to do, another show where we get into the nitty-gritty of politics. And
nope.
No, not really. Just kidding. It's been done. So in the show notes for this week, under Hot Topics for this week, because I don't have a lot of self-promotion to do, under what we're watching, well, dinosaurs are coming. Okay, we talked about that already. Dinosaurs came to the aforementioned Henry Ford. Amy mentioned the Greenfield Village, one of the properties in the Henry Ford. Well, the Henry Ford Museum has dinosaurs in motion, steel skeletons of dinosaurs, and Amy participated in a video to promote this.
Many times.
Well, after dinosaurs are coming and the egg cracked and who knows what came out, well, you found out what came out. In the next video, dinosaurs are here, and you got to see dinosaurs running around this museum. And I know, Amy, you had some folks at work who thought maybe that's not appropriate. This is a very, dignified, stately museum.
Yes.
And should people in dinosaur suits, folks, if you've never seen them, these are dinosaur suits that you put on, and they're inflatable with a kind of visor mask area that you can see through. You look like you are a dinosaur running around this museum.
Like a 9-foot tall dinosaur. It's great.
Well, the climax of that and what that relates to this week is, Amy, you found after oh wait, I'm sorry. The next element in this was the Rhubarb Barbara dance.
Yep.
And dinosaurs doing this internet meme dance.
That's right.
At the actual exhibition Dinosaurs in Motion. And now the fourth element. This is way over the top. This is trying to get people to say yes, some of whom questioned the wisdom. Amy, you found a group in Michigan, in East Lansing, so an hour and a half from Motown. And these are folks, this is the best thing. These are folks who, in the days of COVID, when people are locked down, it's harder to get people to come out and visit or go out and do things. They bought some of these dinosaur costumes. In fact, they bought a variety of them, including one really big and really neat one.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
And they would go to people's houses dressed as dinosaurs. And they started doing it as a fluke, and then they kind of made a thing out of it.
Well, yeah, they started doing this, for COVID.
And then folks would start asking them, well, can you come to my birthday party dressed as dinosaurs?
And then they started charging money for it, which is great, good for them.
And Amy, you tracked them down and said, would you guys like to come to the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation, where we have a dinosaur sculpture, bone exhibit, and showing dinosaur films and Land Before Time and a T-Rex documentary and all sorts of connected activities. And do a line dance, the cha-cha slide in the middle of this stately museum. Basically a crowd, what do we call these again?
It's a flash mob.
Flash mob.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they did. Now, who would say yes to that?
Well, the cool people.
The cool people would. Amy would say yes to that. I even went along with it, although I was just on the technical side.
Right, but you were wearing so Robert was wearing a Dino Rider costume, where his upper torso is, sticking out, and it looks like his legs are going over the dinosaur, and looks great. And he's got like a little, what do you call it? A little strap for the dino, like a horse. A strap for
I forgot
a horse
what it's
strap.
called, too.
Anyway, tell us in the chat what we're missing. Okay, so so you were going around doing that, taking pictures, and then we did the cha-cha slide, which is one of these songs where it basically says, calling out what you need to do. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Stomp right or stomp right 2 times, and stomp left 2 times. And you keep going with this. It's sort of like, what do you call it?
Well, it's like old school.
It's like a square dance.
Square dance, yeah.
Yeah, where you've got a caller.
Call dancing.
Yeah.
You have callers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it wasn't hard. It was really fun.
Nobody else can remember. I can remember what a bridle is. I can remember what a bit is. I went to horseback riding school. I know a saddle and a horn.
The strap for the horse.
And in the chat, nobody can remember either. Apollo Zeus says harness. Christopher Smith says dino strap. Somebody is going to remember what is the rope that you hold that goes to the bit in the horse's mouth.
I thought it was it the bridle?
No, the bridle is the rest of that bit assembly.
All right. Harness? Could be the harness.
No, not the saddle. It's not the strap. Somebody's going. It's funny that this thing that happens. Sometimes we kind of smile because Yaron Brook will forget the name of a thing or the name of a person, and he jokes about it. Like, the older I get, I lose names. I don't think it's him. I think it's a podcasting thing. I think that just happens.
I think it's a harness.
You think it's harness?
Maybe not.
Maybe you're right. Maybe there's not another name for it. Harness, halter, dino strap goes on the horse's mouth. Yeah, that must be it.
The breast collar.
The reins. The reins.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who got
got it first.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
And Race got it spell corrected to reigns like a king reigns. R-E-I-G-N-S. But yes. Very good.
Well, let's answer
Why
some.
couldn't I remember reins?
Yes.
So anyway.
Let it rain. So we've got some questions on YouTube if we want to quickly go over them.
Yeah.
So Stephen, congratulations on your new job. Glad you like it. Yeah, you can find a girlfriend who's a little bit more rational because now you
don't look for a girlfriend who's more rational.
Well, yeah. Find somebody.
I saw that comment in the chat. Your trick is you don't, especially as an objectivist, you don't ever want to fall guilty of checklistism. Okay, well, here's 7 virtues. Let me see how she does on those. Here, okay, and rationality, of course, the parent virtue and the value reason. Don't do that. It's not that those things don't matter, and eventually it's all going to come to the fore. Don't look for a woman who is rational, because you won't find her. Don't look for a man who's rational. You won't find him either. Look for a woman who is reasonable. Now, that's not a lower level of being rational. That is simply applied reason. Look for a woman who is comfortable in the real world. And you'll have much better luck in that regard. Not just it'll be easier to find her, but it will be more worth finding her. And remember the lesson of the fountainhead. Which is it's far more important to find a woman who is passionate than a woman who is rational. If you met Dominique Franken, the last thing you would say is, she's rational. She gets it.
Right. That's true. Yeah. So yes, you can find somebody better for you.
You deserve a rational woman, but you also deserve a passionate woman.
Did you take the title of this show from Taylor Swift and her song Love Story?
Yes, and we will get to that connection shortly.
Oh,
absolutely right.
Did we have gumbo, jambalaya, po' boys? I had gumbo and jambalaya.
One of us did.
I didn't have a po' boy because I'm just avoiding bread.
One of the two of us who doesn't really appreciate Cajun and Creole spices. I'm so glad
I love it. Give it to me all day.
Oh, okay. She was pointing there for those of you listening to the audio version of the podcast.
Did we ever see the movie Yes Man? Yes, we did. Long time ago.
Yeah, we had a question from Jim Ashley about that. What are your favorite movies set in New Orleans? Mine are The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I think you've recommended that to us before, but we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
and
we have never
Panic
seen
in the
it.
Streets, released in 1950 with Richard Widmark.
I remember there's a Dirty Harry movie, one of the Dirty Harry movies, I believe that's...
Is one of those in New Orleans?
It might be New Orleans. Or maybe, I don't know, one of these old 70s kind of cop shows.
Yeah,
hard-boiled shows.
I know we've seen some, but I actually can't remember, so I don't know the answer to that question. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Let me know if there is a movie that we haven't seen yet that you like, that you think we're going to like, that's set in New Orleans. Let us know, because I would love to see that.
It's funny because Jim Ashley is joking and says, "Thank you, I would not have been able to sleep tonight without knowing what rains were called." I think there's even a scene in Atlas Shrugged, like Dagny's first scene in the book, of she talks about, letting go of the reins just for a little while.
Yes.
Let the horse drive in whatever direction it's going to.
Yeah. Jennifer asks, does Bourbon Street smell like bourbon? No.
I wish.
It smells...
It smells like the after effects of bourbon.
It smells like beer and urine. I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, and a combination of that and food that got dropped in the street, and it's cool because
so
if you go out on the streets of New Orleans early in the morning, the street washers come out, and the guys are out there with hoses on Bourbon Street washing away the previous night's after effects.
It's actually kind of satisfying to see. Like around 7 a.m. they come out. It's nice.
Yeah.
Do we like Zydeco music? Not really. I mean, I would do a line dance and learn that, or like partner dancing for Zydeco. I could do that. As a music, just without dancing, no. It's all right.
It is fun. There's a record store on Frenchman Street that has every subgenre of jazz and New Orleans style music, several of which I've never heard of before. And if you like those kinds of things, make sure I don't remember the name of it, but there's a vinyl record store, and they have more than vinyl on Frenchman Street where you can find everything. I am not an expert on those sub-genres of music. Race Jacobson asked earlier, speaking of the Olympics, some entrepreneurs are starting a new Olympics-esque series of game that allows for the use of performance-enhancing substances. Yeah, I heard Yaron Brook talking about that. That's going to be interesting, and I'm all for it. I have intentionally avoided saying anything about the boxer, controversial boxer in this year's Olympics, the female boxer, and the question of whether the female is female. But my latest point on that, and I'm just going to leave it here, is there was a time when some of my conservative friends, you know which ones I'm talking about, were saying, look, I don't care about the qualification, I don't care about the rules. If you got a penis, you're a man. It's just that simple. That's all there is to it. If you got outdoor plumbing, you're a guy. I don't care what your chromosomes are. I don't care about anything else. It's amazing to see those same people now after this Olympics event, in regard to this woman boxer, who incidentally does not have a penis. Oh, no, it was never about that. Now it's about the XY. If they're XY, if you don't have two X chromosomes, then you're a guy. Like, okay, what's it going to be next when somebody doesn't quite fit their binary view of the world? Now, folks, you know, I am as binary as they get. My old-fashioned bona fides in these regards. I mean, I won't even get into the details of it, but
you try not to be binary in your thinking.
Yeah, well, you want me to go see the Trocaderos. These are ballet dancers, men.
Yes, Les Trocaderos de Monte Carlo.
Yes.
Men on point.
Yeah, well, men in skirts. I don't want to see men dressing as women.
But they're beautiful.
I'm sure they're beautiful. Not my thing. But even I, with all of my raging, what would you call it, homophobia or something I would get accused of.
Sure. You're such a redneck, you know.
Yeah. Even I think people they're just looking for reasons to be outraged. And we'll get back to that at the very end of this. But, dinosaurs. Okay, great. The last thing, what we're listening to this week. Oh, yeah, keep up with the chat, too.
Yeah, so Enric asks, are you going to watch the Agatha All Along series? Enric, I have no idea what that is. So, yeah, sure, we'll look it up.
Agatha All Along.
And then also...
Agatha, that's an interesting phrase. Like, at the end of a mystery, it was Agatha all along?
Yeah, regarding Zoolander, which is one of her favorite films, Chandler says, I have lovingly referred to the proper ARI building as the Ayn Rand Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good and Want to Learn Other Stuff, too.
What is this? A school for ants?
It's so good. That movie's just... perfect. It's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece. There is no doubt about that. Okay. I see. I had a text document open here that had last week's chat notes, and I'm like, who asked that this week? Okay, so Nikos Sotirakopoulos, better known as Nikos, because nobody can say his last name. He had posted a short, which I don't usually watch shorts and reels and short attention span theater, but this one was good. It was titled Ayn Rand's Atomic Habit. Well, if you know Atomic Habits, James Clear's book about how to set yourself up for success by creating an environment to reinforce the habits that will give you the results you want. Okay, great. Ayn Rand's Atomic Habit, by the way, was her New Year's Day habit. Some of you folks have heard about this. She would do on New Year's Day that which she wanted to do for the rest of the year. And it's interesting because she references modeling. She acts like a writer in order to then do the things a writer would do, and then she'll feel like a writer. And you think, well, Ayn Rand never had that problem. She never thought to herself, oh God, why did I ever think I was a writer? Well, it turns out she did. She had the same, well, maybe not the exact same, but the same challenges the rest of us have. Right down to at least subtle version of the whole imposter syndrome of feeling like I'm not really what I say I am. I'm not really capable, et cetera, et cetera. And she got over it. Obviously, she got over it, and she knew she was good. It's interesting to hear Nikos Sotirakopoulos in his short reference that because it came up. The reason why I couldn't resist Taylor Swift's song Love Story and that expression, baby, just say yes, the title of tonight's show. Of course, it made me think of one of the secrets of a successful marriage is always say yes. The answer is always yes. And in your personal life, forget about relationships for a second. Never forget about relationships, but forget about relationships for a second. In your own life, just say yes. I'm too tired. Don't want to do it. Don't feel like it. Nobody can make me do it. You're not the boss of me. Sure, but get out of bed and do the thing. Get off of your chair and do the thing. Say yes to more things. I have very few regrets about things I've said yes to. In fact, I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'm not the first person to say it. At the end of your life, you will not regret any of the things you did nearly as much as the things you didn't do. Yeah, there's studies about that. People who work in nursing homes will talk to elderly people and, what did they say they regretted? And it's always the stuff they didn't do. Say yes, baby. Just say yes. But I can't resist contrasting Taylor Swift, the delightful, charming, sweet Taylor Swift, especially of the Love Story era, which is now 15 years ago. Well, what did I just say yes to after New Orleans was going to see Fear.
Well,
and D.O.A. and Guida and a whole long list of punk rock bands.
Yes. Including Against the Grain and some others I forget. I've never heard of them before, but
yeah. And
Tesco V with Against the Grain.
V. Tesco
V was from the Meatmen.
Yeah.
And he's a really meaty guy.
Yeah, he's not touring as a band. He just came along as a special guest for one of the bands.
Yes, he came along to harass the audience with all sorts of interesting things.
So this is hardcore punk rock, and this is not punk pop like you have nowadays. This is slam dancing, beating each other up, high energy, F words through all the lyrics.
It's
just old school punk rock.
You're gonna get somebody's beer down your back.
Yeah, if you're anywhere near the stage, you're not going to stay dry and unbruised. Not going to happen.
I do have a bruise on my right knee.
Yeah, well, mine's on my shins, but that's because I was standing behind you, protecting you from the worst of it.
Yeah, well, I was up against the stage.
Yeah, you kept getting pushed into the stage.
Yeah, with my sumo. My locked sumo legs.
If you've never heard of Fear, if you've never heard of the singer / actor / nutjob Lee Ving.
Leaving. Get it?
Get it? Ha!
I'm leaving. Bye.
I've posted a link. I've posted a link to a song by the band Fear in the show notes. It's in the YouTube description, Facebook description. The song is called Gimme Some Action.
Yes. Shall I recite it? I have it up.
This song will take longer to recite than it takes to perform. The song is exactly 1 minute long.
All right, so do you want to get into the context of how Lee Ving is doing?
And the reason I mention that is because Lee Ving is obviously somebody who doesn't say no. He says yes.
Yes, he does.
He says yes more than he should. He should not be touring anymore.
He shouldn't be.
Now, we went to see D.O.A. was the main act that Amy was interested in. They weren't the headliners, but they were actually better than the headliners. And the lead singer's name?
Joey Shithead Keithley, or Joey Keithley.
The lead singer, Joey, he's like 68 years old.
Yep.
Gray hair. But he looks super cool. He's in good shape.
Good shape.
And even though he looks kind of old, he's got a great attitude where you just forget that you're watching this gray-haired guy. He just looks like a punk rocker, a veteran punk rocker.
He's in my heart forever.
Yeah, and of course, if you look at Amy's threads on Facebook,
Well, you'll see.
and I'll be
posted
posting
yet.
pictures too.
I haven't posted yet.
Well, in the one post you do of your picture, or I posted
that's
a picture
right.
of you
That's
and
right.
Joey.
That's right.
And this is the guy who, well, Lee Ving is like 8 years older than Joey is.
74.
And, okay, 6 years older. And at that age, 6 years is kind of a lot. Lee Ving could not sing Gimme Some Action without screwing it up. The song's a minute long.
He was offbeat.
He was offbeat.
And the thing is that he had an iPad
He
right
had
in
an
front of him
iPad.
because he's so old he can't remember the lyrics.
Now, I know we've got musicians in the chat, and I'm sure musicians will listen to this after the live show, too. You know there's a debate about putting iPads on stages, and this really started, 20, 25 years ago with monitors on stages. Sometimes,
tour.
and I mean computer monitors. You look at those monitors on stages, those speakers that let the singers and the musicians hear themselves. Some of those are actually computer monitors with teasers of showing the lyrics. And the better singers don't stare at them. It's not karaoke night. Sadly, Lee Ving, he had an iPad Pro or maybe something even bigger, like a 12, 13-inch tablet on the screen, and he was using it. And Fear only put out 2 albums or 2.5 albums. There aren't that many lyrics to have memorized, but if you're 74 years old and you're pushing yourself pretty hard, I had a mixed reaction to it, but I'm glad. I'm glad he's still out there doing the thing. And you should be out there doing the thing, especially those of you who think, maybe I'm too old for that. Well, unless you're going to break something, go out there and do the thing. Do not get old.
When we, so right before D.O.A. was going to start, I get up right into the middle, and the stage is, how many feet? Like 4 feet up? And,
less than that.
And so I get up there, and Robert's behind me, and I turn to Robert and I say, let's take a chance. Let's see.
Yeah, let's stand right in front of the stage.
Let's see how this goes.
With all the slam dancers in the mosh pit and see what happens.
So I've been in mosh pits, and then I've been in mosh pits. This was not a polite mosh pit, I'll say that. There were some people who were completely blasted out of their gourd, and they were, oh my God, I mean, the one guy, there was literally a skinhead. I don't know if he was a Nazi, but he was a skinhead, and burly, completely, smooth shaved, and not an old guy. And he was to the right of us, and I mean, he was trying to move the monitors. The poor roadie, who's also doing the merch as well, on the merch stand, he had to keep the monitor in place, and while the guy was trying to push it forward.
Yeah, there's one point in the show where the roadie just stayed there.
Yeah, he just
holding the speaker,
he
the
just
monitor.
stood there, just kind of crouched down and stood there and held it.
Yeah. The stage actually wasn't maybe a 2-foot stage. It wasn't very high, and the monitors brought it up maybe another foot. And they did put 6 monitors across the stage. You don't need 6 monitors for a punk rock show. I think it was there as much as a barrier as speakers.
And so we were in the flux of it, and
it was crazy.
I was getting crushed a little bit, but
and there were times
right.
during the course of the evening where I thought maybe this was a mistake.
But oh my God, I got great video. I had the bassist serenading me like from a foot away from my head. I mean, it was, oh my God, I loved it. And then Joey Keithley, he was playing guitar behind his head like he does.
Yeah, he was doing a Hendrix, which is not a usual punk rock thing, but it was pretty cool.
It was so much fun. They had such great antics, and they were so playful and so funny, and yet so hardcore punk rock, but not like jerks, okay? They're not jerks. I actually got to talk to them after the show, both of them. And I shook both of their hands, and I thanked them, and I got pictures of Joey, and my heart's melting. So I just.
Yeah, Ray says, so this is one of those holding your right eye in your hand pits. It wasn't that bad.
No.
It was more bruises and beer.
There was no blood.
Yeah.
Not that I saw.
Because Christopher Smith says, got kicked in the head by a skinhead in grade 9, Doc Martens. Jeez. Traumatic. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. And there's some risk going to a show like that, but it wasn't that bad.
No.
And we did judiciously decide not to stand right at the stage during the highlighting act, which is good because they weren't as good as D.O.A. anyway in the end.
Yeah.
But, and believe me, my point is there were also times in New Orleans when we would plan to do something, 2 things during the course of the day and then add on 2 more events and let's also do this other thing and let's go swimming in between. And there were times, for example, during the vampire tour
where I got the
I thought, maybe
beautiful New Orleans vampire book will tell me everything I need to know about vampires in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Because it's all true.
Yeah.
We went to the Vampire Cafe and they served sangria and they called it fangria. And they served it in blood bags, you get
like an IV,
like an IV, and
except you didn't put it in your arm; you sipped on this blood bag.
It was so good. I should say it wasn't the best sangria I've ever had, but it was a great novelty.
I enjoyed the Vampire Cafe more than I enjoyed the Vampire Tour, and I say that just to point out that yes, there are things that I've said yes to, which I later said, "Oh yeah, that didn't work out."
But it was a great story, vampire tour.
And again, you will regret far more the things you didn't do than the things you did do.
All of this stuff is so memorable. If you do something and you're like, oh my gosh, I have second thoughts about this, I'm not so sure about this, you're going to have a great time, trust me.
Yes.
Not unless it's seriously bad. Yeah, it's at least it's going to be memorable.
Yes. So, to review, I promised I would discuss the benefits and hazards of saying yes to everything. There are things you shouldn't say yes to. You shouldn't say yes to immoral things. You shouldn't say yes to things that will cause irreversible damage or have a reasonable likelihood of doing that. But generally, say yes to everything. Just say yes to everything. Okay, not everything, but everything. Amy recently commented on the idea of there are people who say, don't meet your heroes. No. There's another instance in which you need to say yes. If you have an opportunity to meet Joey of D.O.A., if you have an opportunity to meet people in New Orleans, reach out to strangers, performers, musicians, tour guides, anybody.
Yeah.
Meet them.
Yeah. Get their story. Understand them. Learn from them.
There was a thread. You see, we're saying yes to everything today. Well, here's my yes mug. That could be my Post-it note for the week, is my coffee mug that says yes. Well, that's the name of the band. We got to meet the lead singer of that band, John Anderson. We've met him more than once, but we did it at a meet and greet where we really got to talk.
Got a hug from him.
Got a hug from the man. I don't expect John Anderson, I don't expect anybody who's not an Ayn Rand fan, to check mark that list of 7 virtues. But there are so many great people out there. There were great people before Ayn Rand, and there are great people now. And you need to meet them. You need to find them. If you see somebody in a dinosaur costume, you need to go give them a hug. Say yes, and do meet your heroes.
Yes.
Especially those of us who didn't have that many role models growing up. You got to find those people, and you got to get everything you can from them.
Normalize admiring heroes or expressing admiration for heroes. Normalize that. Find the best in people and tell them why you think they're the best and what you think that is the best about them. Tell them explicitly what the virtues you see in them are. You tell them, give them the words, and tell them that those sorts of virtues or character traits, that's what you want to apply to your life, and that's what you see in them. And you don't have to agree with them on everything. Joey Keithley is a socialist. I mean, sort of an anarchist. It's kind of like an anarchist socialist from Canada, but so much I admire about him. As a matter of fact, one of the things he really inspired me when I was a teenager. There's an album that I owned by them. Unfortunately, it's lost to history at this point point, but it was D.O.A. Let's Wreck the Party album. And it was just this really, really goofy... the album cover was a picture of the band like wrecking a party, like, you know, like having a food fight basically at some rich, like some pretentious family's dinner or something. And but on the back of it, it had like these little slogans like talk minus action equals 0. You know, and I really took that to heart. This is like a little keychain that has a DOA tag on the on the other side of it. But you know, I really took that to heart, and you know, it really reinforced to me as a teenager that these abstract ideas, philosophical ideas, psychological, political ideas, should be practiced. These principles should be practiced. And they don't mean a damn thing unless they are reality based, unless you can actually express them for something good in your life in reality. And yeah, so yeah, Joey Keithley, and I also credit him for helping develop the band No Means No, which is my very favorite punk rock. Oh, one other thing is that when D.O.A. was warming up, the bassist, who is not the original bassist for D.O.A., but he was a damn good bassist. And he was warming up, and he actually did the bass line for the No Means No song, Rags and Bones. And it just blew my mind. And I'm like, oh my God. You know, I just totally fangirled out. And I went up to Mike, the bassist, later, and I thanked him for playing that little piece of No Means No, and I told him how much I love that band. And I shook his hand, and it was just a beautiful thing. So yes, meet your heroes. Tell them why you like them. Find friends who you admire. Tell them why you like them. Find coworkers who you admire. Tell them why you like them. Be specific. And bring out the best in other people, and that's going to bring out the virtues and values in your life.
So, 2 things left to say. 1, Race in the chat says, where would you recommend people start listening to Yes the Band? What albums just to dip your toe in? And that depends on you and your relationship with music. For example, I would not recommend that anybody start listening to Yes by listening to their best album. Because it's not very accessible.
No, it's not.
It's
You're talking
hard.
about Close to the Edge?
Close to the Edge. Or Relayer.
Or Relayer.
Both of which are albums that start with an entire side, if you remember album sides, of one song that's 20, 22 minutes long.
I would start with, what's the one Parallels is on?
I was about to say that. If you are somebody who can get into unusual music or music you're just not very familiar with easily, if you don't mind sitting there with playing something loud and songs that last 6 or 7 minutes, then yes, start with the album Going for the One.
Yes.
That is the Yes album I have gifted the most to people if they're interested in getting into the music. And it is an album with some of my favorite songs by the band. But I think only one song on the album is over 10 minutes long. With Yes music, the longer the better.
Yep.
You'll learn that eventually. It's kind of like classical music. The longer it is, the better it is. If you're just not really into music that takes some effort, that's not that accessible, something that sounds good on the very first listen, that's what you want, the album to start with is an album called, and this will be easy to remember, the Yes album. Mm-hmm. Now, there is an album out there just called Yes, their first album, their debut album. That's not what I'm talking about. Don't bother listening to that. It's for hardcore fans and completists only. But the album called The Yes Album is very accessible. It's great fun. It does have a couple of their best tunes on it. But yeah, it's not that hard to get into. Once you become a hardcore Yes fan, you will listen to albums like Tales from Topographic Oceans, which was a double vinyl album and only had 4 songs. Mm-hmm. One song on each side of the album.
That's the least accessible.
That's among their least accessible works. But I remember some of their best stuff. The first time I heard The Gates of Delirium, thinking, Why are they doing these terrible things? What is this noise? And it took me time and a bunch of listens to realize this is one of the best things in the world. This is one of the greatest songs ever recorded.
It's true.
But thank you for asking that. I do appreciate the question. I know we have, we've got some interesting conversation in the chat, including Christopher Smith, who wishes he'd met Edward Van Halen, but he says, I went to school with Lawrence Gowan. Lawrence Gowan who is he? He's like Steve Vai. He's like one of these guitarists who's so good you don't feel like he's doing the same thing as the rest of us. Lawrence Gowan actually played with Asia for a while.
Oh, really?
But just solo. You'll find his videos on YouTube. He plays an amazing. See, I say the words and they don't even make sense to me. Fretless guitar. I have a enough challenge with fretless bass. Fretless guitar and the way that Gowan plays it is just stunning, outrageous. There's more about that in the chat. I got to catch up with all of that. But yes, that said, again, listen to either Going for the One or the Yes album, and eventually you'll want to hear their masterpiece, Close to the Edge. Actually, if you're going to listen to Close to the Edge, start with side 2, or if you're listening to it digitally, start with the latter 2 tracks and not the opening track, Close to the Edge, which is, again, 20 minutes long and can take a little getting into you if you're not into progressive rock. Some of you people are into progressive metal, and you'll say, I could get into that easy. That stuff's real simple. So, your something may vary. Your mileage may vary.
Yes.
Finally, to tie it all together. Oh wait, Amy has show and tell.
Oh, real quick, if you, other than Yes, if you want to listen to a band that also has 3 letters in its name, D.O.A.
If you like old school punk rock.
One of the things that Robert did that Friday night after the D.O.A. show, I was looking for him. I'm like, where's Robert? And he comes up to me with this sheet of paper and he hands it to me and I freak out. It's the set list from the stage. So I recommend The Prisoner, which it was the one that they closed with, which was a great song. Smash the State's nice. World War III's nice. The Enemy's good. Anyway, there's some D.O.A. songs for you. I'm so happy. Go ahead.
Very cool. And finally, just to wrap up, I don't know if we hit the 5-minute mark. Just to wrap up, my Post-it note for the week. There was a conversation online. A friend of a friend had posted she was having trouble with her computer and it's getting run down and maybe time to buy a new MacBook. And basically she was looking for people to convince her to go ahead and spend the money and do it. I thought, well, that's one I've got to comment on because I think the answer is always yes. And you should always have the best. I mean, there are people out there who have the best, in her case, MacBook. Whatever that would be, a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, whatever would, it depends on how heavy you want it and all that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, go ahead.
And so I encouraged her to buy the best. And the friend I said she's a friend of a friend. The friend, not the friend of the friend, chimed in and said, well, no, don't buy the best. You overpay and it's not necessarily what you need. And sometimes buying the cheapest thing is good. And he actually sent me a private message about it to kind of have a conversation about it. But I had to acknowledge he's right. It is true that the very best, the tip-toppy best, is usually not as good a bargain as the second best or the third best. So when I tell you out there, you deserve if anybody deserves the best, you deserve the best. I mean it, but take it in context. The main thing I wanted to do is what I'm going to do to you. What am I going to do to you?
Oh.
I want to give you permission. In fact, my Post-it note for the week that I'm going to put on my wall is just a permission slip. And then, well, who the hell are you to give me permission for anything? But psychologically, permission is powerful stuff, and I think it's important to give yourself permission. We use expressions like, you're not the boss of me. I think we need to say those things, and we need to write those things, and we need to remind ourselves, we don't need permission to do stuff, but psychologically, it's valuable. It's worthwhile to say, I give myself permission. And to do this with people you know, do this with people you love. say yes and be willing to say yes and tell yourself, yes, I can say yes. And that's it. That's all I got. We're going to wrap up right there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. I'm not even going to do the usual stuff at the end of the show because we've actually got something we got to do real quick here. And so that's it. Thank you for joining us. Glad you were in the chat. Glad you were here. And we will see you. I'm going to be announcing an interview. We're looking at doing a follow-up interview with Scott Powell of Powell History and the history of now, the history of tomorrow, which is a series of sessions he's doing, I think, starting this week. We'll let you know when that happens. We will announce it. Watch us on the socials. Watch us on all of the ways in which you find out about this show. And thank you. Thank you for being here. As always, we wish you all the success. I'm trying to do this quick. Wish you all the success you so richly deserve. And as always, we wish you love.